Let's learn data analysis. Today we will be working on some common data analysis, data manipulation scripts. So first what we want to do is import pandas as PD. We are importing these libraries. Pandas stands for panel data. And now we are importing NumPy as NP. So in the last tutorial, I showed you how to ingest data, but here I am showing you how to actually create your own data frame. So we are calling pandas, that's the PD, and we're doing dot data frame. And now what we're doing is we are creating a single column data frame. So we see A as our field, and then the values under A are 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now we see we are creating a variable that is holding this other data frame that we are about to create. The variable is df2. So this data frame, we are creating multiple columns. So this will have multiple columns, not just a single column. So we are first placing the column name. We see A, and then we see the value 1. This is the value that's going to be under column A. And then we have column B here. And we are saying that it is timestamp. We're putting an actual year, month, and day here. And now we are creating a series for under column C, and we're just saying what the value will be and then what the index will be. And so the index is going to be a list with range 4, and the value is going to be 1. We see that we are setting the data type as a float 32. And in this column, we are saying NP, which is NumPy, and it's an array, and it's going to be the value 3 4 times. For column E, we are setting strings with test, train, test, train. And then F, we are just setting it as foo. Of course, you can replace that with anything. And so when we just place one, so we're just putting one word here, right, which is foo, this gets carried down. It fills down in that column F, the same way how we did with column A, right, how we just placed an integer and it filled down in A, in column A. So we didn't have to put 1, 1, 1, 1. We just placed it one time and it's filling that in. And now we are creating a variable dates that is going to hold a specific date range with 6 periods. So it should be 6 days starting with January 1st, 2023. And so here I was trying to sort this data frame, but it's saying that DF is not defined. So we must not have defined DF anywhere. You see, these errors can happen because the code is just spitting out what you tell it, right? So it's looking for DF. So we have to create DF. So I am creating a variable called DF that is going to be a data frame, and it has we're using the random function here, and we're saying we're adding in 6 by 4, right? So there will be 6 rows and 4 columns. And I'm setting the index to be the variable that holds the dates. And so let's see what comes out when we run this script. Oh, and here we're saying that the column list, and we're naming what the column list will be. It's a list A, B, C, D. So let's go ahead and run this again, and let's see what comes out when we run DF now. Okay, awesome. So we ran DF, and we do see our index is the dates. We see that the column, the list A, B, C, D. We see that the values are that random, it's the random values, right? 6 by 4, so 6 rows and 4 columns. Okay, and so now we can run this, and this works because it knows what DF is. And wanted to let you know, by default, your data frame will always be in ascending. So what we are saying is we're setting that to false because we want to make this data frame descending, and that's what's happening. You see DCBA, right? Originally it was ABCD for our columns. It is now saying it's DCBA because we placed this in a descending order. And we can also sort by a specific column. So here we've sorted by B, by column B. So we see here that the data frame is now it's becoming sorted by column B. And that's in ascending order, so small to highest, right? So it's showing the smallest number to the highest number. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to splice this data frame. And so we have the brackets here, 0:3. And what this is doing is it is slicing by the rows. So we are saying 0, 1, 2, 3, but the output will not show the third or the last, it will not show the last row, right? So it will bring in 0, 1, and 2, and that's what we're seeing here. So we see 3 rows because we spliced it 0 to 3. And now what we are doing is the lock function, and we are saying we want all rows, that's with the colon there, and we want to grab columns A and B. And so when we look here, we can see when we click run, we have all the rows, but just columns A and B. We're subsetting this data set. And so this is very useful. I use this a lot. It's great for, like I said, doing subsets. The lock function comes in handy with this. You know, I used to get this confused, but the way I remember it, it's rows and then columns. So when you have this format, the first sort of section here is pertaining to the rows, and the second is pertaining to the columns. So now let's look here. We have iLock function. And this we are going to be looking at, again, so this first block is rows, right? So we're looking at splicing from 3 to 5, and then looking at columns from 0 to 2. And so it's looking at this chunk right here. And play around with this, play around with this and see if you understand the whole splicing process. This is very useful. And now we are going to transpose the original data set. So you remember, well, it's showing you right here, DF, how we've got our columns A, B, C, D, and then our index is the dates. Well, now we are transposing that. So we're flipping it. And we're now having the dates. The dates are now our columns, and the columns are now our index. So it appears that has went from a long to wide format. We're doing a transpose. So it's very simple. You just do DF, so the data frame dot T, which stands for transpose. And basically what we are doing is essentially we are pivoting our data. And now in this data set, say we want to grab everything in column A that is greater than 0. So we are filtering. Right? So I'm saying, hey, in this particular data set, under column A, show me everything that is greater than 0. And it is showing that. And so I switched it to D, column D, and we see the outcome of that. I would recommend you play around with this and look at other operators, maybe doing a less than, maybe doing equals. And now here what we're doing is we are going to create a new column. And how we're creating a new column based off of existing columns. And we are multiplying 2 columns to get our new existing column. Keep in mind, you can only do this with numerical data, right? So we are calling that data frame, and now we've created column E by saying that is column C and D multiplied. So it's a multiplication of column C and D. And now we are going to multiply the entire data frame by 5 and then add 2. And that's exactly what's happening. You could do the math. If you multiply the value in column A, that first value there, that would be like A1, right? If this was Excel, you can see 4.9685525. That is the original data multiplied by 5 and then adding 2 to that data. So this is pretty cool. You can also divide by numbers, you can multiply by numbers like I was saying, you can add numbers, you can subtract. So it's pretty awesome. You can pretty much do anything you can think of. And so now what we're doing here is we are creating another data frame, and we are creating our column names. Okay, we've got an error here. It's saying invalid syntax. So what's the problem here? Oh, the double brackets, of course. So we've got our parentheses, we've got our curly braces, but we need the double brackets that is going to be holding the value data. And so, or holding our values. And so now that works. And so we've created a single column data frame, much like what we've created in the beginning of this video. So we've got our column name, ID, and then the values underneath this. And say we want to make all those values lowercase. So we are using our lower method. And so we are saying everything in every value under column ID, I want this to be lowercase. And we have done that. Okay, so it looks like we've created another data frame. Hopefully you are feeling comfortable with creating data frames. And so I want to show you the concatenation or merging or joining. We are putting data frames together. And so we are going to use the concat function. And so we are holding this in the C variable, and we're concatenating data frames A. That was the first data frame that we did, and now we're concatenating data frame A and B on axis 1. And axis 1 is, we're referring to the vertical or the columns. But when we do this concatenation, the output, when you're doing concatenation, it will join it in a horizontal manner. So they're sticking, the data frames are side by side, right? It's adjacent. So we've got ID and we've got name here. So that's pretty awesome. So we've created a 2-column data frame here that is held in the variable C. And now we are creating another data frame that is stored in the variable D, and we've got ID and we've got name. But what we want to do is we want to concatenate these data frames vertically, not horizontally. So can you guess what the script will be, or what the line of code will be when we create, when we're trying to create a vertically joined data frame? So I give you a hint, it has to do with the axis. So we know that axis equals 1 is along the columns, axis equals 0 is along the rows. So we are now naming our data frame that is going to be the vertical concatenation. We're naming it final, and the final variable will hold data frames C and D, and it's going to be concatenated vertically or stacked on top of one another. And so notice that the column names are the same though, right? So we had ID and name, it's the same exact names. And so if you've guessed it right, the axis would be 0. So we're running that, and now we've got this long data frame because we have vertically concatenated our 2 data frames. We stacked them on top of one another. So here I'm just saying, because it may be a little bit tricky, but when we refer to axis 0, that is along the rows, meaning horizontal. But when we were referring to concatenation, when we were saying axis equals 0, that output, the final output, will be where the data frames are stacked on top of one another vertically. And so we are now going to add a column to this data frame. So we want to add another column and show that New York, we're adding the state New York here. And so what we did is we just set our column name to state, and we just set equals to New York, the string New York, and that is filling down in all of those rows. And now what we're going to do is we're going to replace New York with another state, California. So I'm just showing you how to do that. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you found value in this video. The next videos will be a day in the life of a work from home data scientist, as well as showing you how to create a data scientist portfolio. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Until next time.